Let's dive into the whole diversity piece a little bit. So
Yeah.
it's a hot topic. Obviously, people talk about it all the time. We've had things come and go. We've got W Series, which came in with a big bang, and obviously have had their issues of late. But who knows what's going to happen with that in the future? We've got various F1 teams engaging with female drivers and trying to create more female interest in the sport. Females in Motorsport, the platform that is doing fantastic things with zero backing. They're doing it as volunteers, but getting some great numbers and a growing platform. Girls on Track, more than equal. There's lots of stuff out there at the moment. How have you seen, even in your relatively short career so far, have things changed? Are we moving the dial? Are things going in the right direction as far as diversity and inclusion for females or even underrepresented parts of the country? Are things heading in the right direction?
Yeah, I think things are headed in the right direction. There's been such a massive push over the last couple of years that I think it would be hard to say that it's not headed in the right direction. These things don't change overnight. It's going to take years for us to see actual, meaningful, lasting, fundamental change. And I think that can be difficult to accept when obviously everyone's so passionate and wants things to change straight away. There are so many amazing initiatives like the ones you've just said, and I think they're doing fantastic work. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot more that could be done on all fronts to push greater diversity, make sure that we're supporting from the very bottom up. It's got to come from every single level and every single angle in order for us to actually have a successful change in the industry. But we're headed in the right direction. I think that it's just now a case of keeping the momentum up. I feel like we had this massive push when we had Black Lives Matter, and that really helped push all diversity causes forward. It's very easy to then sort of be like, oh, okay, that was intense. Let's take stock a little bit, but kind of don't have the time to do that. We've got to keep the pressure up and keep going if we actually want to see change. So I think that's what's really important. And I think we've seen a lot of good efforts by different areas of the industry and more widely just in society of, including people from different backgrounds, putting more females at the forefront, putting more people from underrepresented backgrounds at the forefront. But it has to go beyond just that. And this is something that I keep saying recently. It's input is one thing, output is another. So you can bring people in who are from diverse backgrounds, you can bring them in, but are you actually making sure that the output is also changing? And I think that's the next hurdle that we're really trying to get past. And I think that's what's really difficult, because it forces you to, I mean, I'm talking about this from more of a media content perspective, but it forces you to potentially, if you're an organization, put out content or whatever it might be that you don't necessarily wholeheartedly understand or subscribe to, because it's not designed for you. And I think that makes people uncomfortable, and that's difficult to process. If you're a company, why would I put something out that I can't actually buy into myself? But that is how you ensure that you're actually getting diversity. You shouldn't be able to engage with every single thing you put out unless you're only subscribing to a very niche target audience. And that's fine in a sense, right? Some people have a target audience and that is their sole target audience. But when you're talking about things like diversity, there is definitely a responsibility, I think, for certain organizations and parts of the industry to ensure that the output is as representative as the input.
It's a fascinating subject, and it's a complicated one because I mean, I've as I said, my first race was in 2005, and I've seen so my day job is sponsorship and marketing in Formula One, and I've seen that industry change in terms of female participation. So now, as you've probably seen, when you go to a Formula One race, many of the marketing teams or the PR teams, sponsorship teams are female, which is great. Yeah. But what I'm still not seeing is diverse ethnic minorities. I'm not seeing too much LGBTQ individuals, not talking about the stuff that brands are doing and F1 are doing with, pride colors, all that's happening. But where are the individuals? Yeah. Where are the gay drivers? Where are the trans? I mean, we've got Charlie Martin, one, but where are they? And it's difficult because there are brands who will try and convey with their sponsorship LGBTQ messaging or diverse messaging. But then you step into the realms of like greenwashing or the equivalent. It's such a balancing act between all these things. But do you agree? Are you seeing females up and down the paddock, but perhaps not necessarily yet the ethnic minorities being represented?
Yeah, there's definitely been like a massive, I mean, I've only been in the paddock for a year and a half. My first race was Austria last year. So I've been in it literally from when all of this was sort of in the height of the push. There's definitely way more representation when it comes to females. Like there's definitely a lot more improvement in terms of when you're in the paddock, around the paddock, and even in terms of who comes to the races. Like when we were in Austin, it was so nice because there were so many females that I've connected with online, for instance, on social media, who were all there and in the paddock and like doing their own thing, creating content. And it was amazing. It was like one of the nicest feelings. I would say there is a lot more work to do on the ethnic diversity front and, like you said, LGBTQ+. And it takes time, and it's so many things that we're trying to push all at once. And like I said, it's just about keeping the momentum up and having people in the sport who are really being spokespeople for it. Like we've had Lewis, who's obviously amazing, and without him, I think we would have been quite a few steps further back. But Lewis isn't going to be here forever, and Lewis can't speak for every underrepresented group. We have to have other people sticking their head up. We've got Sebastian Vettel as well, but we need to have more of those people. It can't just be the drivers that hold the weight. There's got to be people throughout all of the organizations.
Yeah, because a lot of the focus is put on, diversity amongst the drivers.
Yeah.
And like you said, this thing, it's going to take time. That we're not going to see the positive impact of female representation in W Series, because that impacts that's for the young girls watching, like the kids, you know what I mean? And giving them someone to look at. But what I think from a broadcasting point of view as well, and you're a prime example, Lizzie McIntosh, what she's doing as well, is that where anyone can pick up their phone and create videos and create content, it kind of, I think historically media's had that kind of big barrier to entry. Like in order to get into people's living rooms and into people's TV screens, you had that big barrier. Now the fact that anyone could do it, like I'm seeing from a YouTube creator point of view, so many different people from different backgrounds, like approaching F1 and doing their thing and talking about the sport. More so actually, because again, I used to do football stuff back in the day. I feel like there is a greater, from what I've seen anyway, having been to football matches versus been to, F1 races, I feel like amongst the fandom, and I think this is an issue with football, there's a greater diversity I'm seeing from both creators and from fans in F1. And it's just about amplifying those voices and giving people the confidence to speak their mind, because everyone should have a seat at the table. The table's big enough as far as I'm concerned for everyone to have a seat. But
that's the problem, is getting them that seat at the table, because it's really interesting hearing what you're saying there, Tom, about the sort of the fan side of it, like the content creators, the people picking up their mobile phones and doing it from all sorts of different ethnic backgrounds and so on. But they're not, for whatever reason, present company excluded, and one or two others, like you say, they're not getting through. They're not getting into the paddocks. They're not working in the industry. They're not behind the wheel. They're not in writing the articles in the papers. You know what I mean?